Good evening and welcome to the Sunday edition of Poland Daily. I'm Conrad Gorlinski. Let's see what's in the news today. Well, earlier today, Italians elected a new parliament. These were snap elections due to Prime Minister Mario Draghi's resignation back in July. The clear favorite is the right-wing coalition led by Giorgia Meloni. Brussels, however, is fearful of a right-wing victory. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen herself, tried to influence the results of today's vote by means of blackmail and threats.
Polling stations open at 7 a.m. and will be closed at 11 p.m. 51 million Italians are entitled to vote. In today's elections, 400 deputies and 200 senators will be selected. I hope all Italians will vote. I think the right will win. The left does not have a specific program and the parties are left to each other's own, while the right at least has a coalition, though frankly speaking it would have been better if Berlusconi had retired. The favorite in the elections is the right-wing coalition, which in the polls showed 47% support. It consists of three parties, the Italian brothers of Giorgia Meloni, the League of Matteo Salvini, and Silvio Berlusconi's Forza Italia. The main candidate for the office of Prime Minister is Giorgia Meloni. She would be the first woman to hold this position in the history of Italy. Apparently in Europe they are afraid of Giorgia Meloni. And what will happen if she wins? What will happen? The fun will end. It will happen that Italy will be able to defend its national interests. President of the European Commission clearly does not like the support of Italians for the right-wing coalition. It even went so far as to threaten the sovereign Italian people. According to polls, the Democratic Party is behind the right. The difference in support between them amounts to as much as 20 percentage points. Democrats put a strong emphasis on pro-ecological activities. It is impossible for the environment not to be at the center of an election campaign. We are against climate change, and I want to tell young people, activists, that they are right to protest and that we will support them in this. The left-wing Italian media accuse Giorgia Meloni of pro-Russian sympathies and neo-fascist views. These are wrong accusations. Meloni distances herself from the nationalist history of her party, and she expressed her support for Ukraine as early as 2014. Everything indicates that these are the statements of Giorgia Meloni, and that it will be a pro-Atlantic and anti-Russian policy. Attitudes towards immigration will also change completely. In addition, there will be social issues. Here, there is a lot of emphasis on caring for small entrepreneurs. We in Poland will observe the new government's policy on intra-EU issues. As you can see from Ursula von der Leyen's reaction, the Brussels elite is concerned about what will happen after the elections in Italy. If the coalition of Italian brothers, the League and Forza Italia wins, it will be the first victory for the right in Italy since the end of World War II.
And the Law and Justice government has announced further support for Polish citizens in the face of the global energy crisis. The funds for this purpose would come from surplus profits run up by state-owned companies. Here are the details. According to the current analysis, in 2021, the largest companies of the state treasury not only improved their financial results, but also maintained a high level of investment expenditures. The total profit of the largest entities exceeded 33 billion zloty, and the value of investments reached almost 40 billion. State-owned companies do not want to lower energy prices. Although banks can do so, they will still have significant profits. The international economic crisis is exacerbated by rising inflation. This increase is a consequence of the war in Ukraine and the recent coronavirus pandemic. In difficult times, high revenues of state-owned companies provide a huge boost to the entire economy. According to the analysis, the government's strategy of fighting the crisis will provide multi-billion-dollar profits. From the 1st of January, contrary to the plans of energy companies, the price of electricity in Poland will be frozen. There will be no increase in consumption of 2,000 kilowatt hours per year, and therefore for the vast majority of Polish families, especially in the provinces. Yesterday, I addressed to Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki a solution regarding the taxation of extraordinary profits of state treasury companies and private enterprises. The estimated budgetary impact is 13.5 billion zloty, which we will spend on mitigating the effects of rising energy prices. The funds obtained will help support Polish farms. On Wednesday, a draft law appeared on the website of the Government Legislation Center, providing for a strategy to help energy-intensive companies in connection with the global energy crisis. It is a good move by the state. I do, however, have reservations about the effectiveness of spending these funds. Support should be provided to those most in need. The energy market in Europe is paralyzed with the suspension of raw material supplies from Russia. Many countries face the specter of an economic collapse. According to experts, the proposals from Law and Justice are an active preventive measure that will lead to an improvement in the budget situation of Polish families. Raising energy prices alone will only result in the fact that there will be no adequate allocation of resources and inputs in the economy, will push private initiative out of the Polish direction. According to experts, the exploitation of indigenous energy sources will have a positive impact on the energy situation in Poland. Therefore, it should take advantage of this situation of making additional expenditures and increasing the supply of these energy carriers. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki revealed machinations that some companies perform. Namely, they count the prices of coal in Rotterdam, which are much higher, while they buy coal in Poland from Polish mines, where prices are much lower. This is causing an avalanche in energy prices. This year, the Ministry of Development and Technology will allocate over 5 billion zloty to subsidies for energy-intensive companies. According to analysts' forecasts, support for enterprises for the purchase of energy and gas by 2024 will cost over 17 billion zloty. And Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz was in the UAE today as part of his short tour of the oil-rich Gulf nations. He and the president of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, signed an agreement that covers accelerating energy security and industrial growth. Scholz later traveled to Qatar.
The Abu Dhabi National Oil Company signed an agreement to supply liquefied natural gas to Germany utility RWE. ADNOC will deliver the first shipment in late 2022 for use in the trial operation of a floating natural gas terminal in Brunsbüttel. Germany, until recently heavily dependent on Russia for gas, has been seeking to diversify its energy supply since Russia invaded Ukraine in February. It's good that progress is being made here and that there are signs that our country is now able to supply itself with gas, for example. But it is also important to see that at the same time, there are perspectives for the longer-term future, where we are concerned with operating in a CO2-neutral way and advancing hydrogen projects. The announcement came on the second day of a two-day trip to the Gulf region by Chancellor Olaf Scholz in his bid to secure alternative energy resources. The LNG delivery will be 137,000 cubic meters and the first to be supplied to a floating LNG terminal at Brunsbüttel near Hamburg. Scholz traveled to Qatar after his meetings in Abu Dhabi. In Doha, he answered a reporter's question on the upcoming World Cup held in Qatar, saying that progress had been made in terms of employee rights, even if this is still far from the ideas that we ourselves have. Scholz added that the question of how Germany would be represented should be answered soon. It will be the case that we will have someone there. On Saturday, Scholz held talks in Jeddah with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
And members of Canada's Iranian community held a demonstration yesterday against Iran's theocratic government, joining thousands around the globe, outraged by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini after being arrested for wearing unsuitable attire in Iran. Chanting Amini's name and holding signs depicting her. Protesters gathered in downtown Toronto to protest against the Iranian regime and its treatment of women. Demonstrator Nafis Ahmadi called on Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to refuse to engage with Iran's leaders and to condemn their recent efforts to shut down access to the internet.
Mr. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, we don't want you to talk to our regime. We don't want this regime. We don't want Islamic Republic. We want our Iran back. We want Iran to be free. Please be our people's voice. They shut down internet. My people don't access internet. They're killing my people on the street.
Protesters in Iran have taken to the streets across the country in fury over the death of the young Amini. Mahsa Amini, a Kurdish woman, died after falling into a coma following her detention in Tehran by morality police, enforcing hijab rules on women. Women have played a prominent role in the demonstrations, waving and burning their veils, with some publicly cutting their hair in a direct challenge to clerical leaders. Protesters in Tehran and other cities torched police stations and vehicles as outrage over Amini's death showed no signs of abating, with reports of security forces coming under attack. And finally, some good news. After years of COVID-19 precautions, Cambodians once again celebrated the Festival of the Dead. The celebrations included buffalo and horse races, as well as offerings of food to the spirits at sacred temples.
Hundreds gathered at Vihoar Suar Pagoda, some 46 kilometers outside of Phnom Penh, to watch the races and also traditional wrestling matches for the first time in 2 years. This year, about 60 buffaloes and horses competed in the colorful race, which saw decorated water buffaloes thundering by with riders clinging onto their broad backs. We missed celebrating this festival for some years, and now we can do this again, so that makes us very happy, and our family spirits are also so happy. In the pagoda, people were busy filling monks' alms bowls with cooked rice, laying out a lavish feast for the monks, and donating money to buy food for them. These acts are believed to reach the souls of deceased family members. People come seeking luck and prosperity from all over the country for the 2-week-long festival, which ends on the 15th day of the 10th month of the Khmer calendar. The Festival of the Dead honors ancestors, but it has become more significant since the fall of the Khmer Rouge. From 1975 to 1979, millions were executed or died of torture, starvation, or exhaustion during the Khmer Rouge's disastrous bid to create a peasant utopia.
As usual, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful week ahead.